I am 71 years old. I have spent 43 years sitting behind a judge's bench, wearing the robe, listening to stories from every corner of human life. In those decades, I truly believed, that nothing could surprise me anymore. I thought I had witnessed every form of dishonesty, arrogance, desperation, and cruelty that people could bring into a courtroom. I was wrong. What happened on October 17th shattered that belief completely. That day is burned into my memory in a way no other case ever has been. It is a day I will carry with me for the rest of my life. On that day, a police chief, someone sworn to uphold the law, stood in my courtroom and pointed a loaded gun directly at my face. This is my story. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Frank Caprio. I preside over Providence Traffic Court. Most people think traffic court is dull, repetitive, almost mechanical. And honestly, most days, they're right. People come in for speeding tickets, parking violations, rolling through stop signs, running red lights. The cases are usually small. The decisions are quick. The outcomes are predictable. Most days blend together, but some days are different. October 17th was one of those days. That morning began like any other. I arrived at the courthouse at 7:30 a.m., just as I had done thousands of times before. The building smelled of burnt coffee and old paper, the familiar scent of long mornings and longer histories. My assistant handed me the stack of files scheduled for the day, about 30 cases. Nothing appeared unusual, just names, numbers, routine violations. If you believe everyone deserves equal treatment under the law, no matter who they are, remember that thought as this story unfolds. Around 9:30 a.m., my assistant brought me a specific file and placed it gently on my desk. Case number 2023-TR-8847, a speeding ticket. The defendant's name was Richard Vandermeer, age 52. His job title immediately caught my attention. Police Chief of Westbrook. Police officers get tickets. It happens. They're human. But when a police chief gets cited, things become complicated. Chiefs carry influence. They have connections. And too often, they expect special treatment simply because of the badge they wear. I kept reading. The citing officer was Maria Santos, age 34, Providence Police Department, 7 years on the force. Before that, military police in Afghanistan, 2 tours, decorated service, a clean, respected record. Then I saw something that made my chest tighten. The file mentioned her daughter, Emma Santos, 6 years old, leukemia, fighting cancer for 2 years. I have 3 grandchildren. When you've lived as long as I have, stories about sick children don't stay on paper. They hit you deep in the chest. I learned that Officer Santos had been working extra shifts, mostly nights, the most dangerous hours, to cover medical bills. She did it so she could spend her days with Emma and her other daughter, Sophia. She was exhausted, but she kept going for her family. The incident occurred on September 22nd at approximately 11:30 p.m. Maria was on patrol on Route 95. A black Cadillac Escalade blew past her position. Radar clocked it at 97 miles per hour in a 65 zone. That speed is not a minor mistake. It's reckless. It's deadly. Maria activated her lights and followed the vehicle. It didn't stop immediately. It continued for more than a mile before finally pulling over. Late-night traffic stops are among the most dangerous things an officer can do. Maria approached carefully. Behind the wheel was Richard Vandermeer, the Westbrook police chief. Maria remained professional. She greeted him, explained the reason for the stop, and requested his license and registration. That's when everything changed. According to her report, Vandermeer looked at her with a cold, amused smile. He spoke down to her. He told her she had no business stopping him. He ordered her to return to her cruiser and forget the entire incident. Maria didn't argue. She calmly explained the radar reading. 97 miles per hour. She needed his documents. Vandermeer laughed. Then he crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. He mentioned her daughter. He spoke about Emma's medical bills. He talked about insurance. He implied clearly that it would be a shame if Maria lost her job, her health coverage, and her ability to care for her sick child, all over a speeding ticket. Threatening a child's life to escape accountability is not just cruel, it is evil. Maria's hands shook, but she did her duty. She issued citations for excessive speed, failure to yield, and reckless driving. Vandermeer grabbed the ticket, tore it in half, and threw the pieces out onto the highway before driving away. Maria retrieved the torn pieces, secured them as evidence, and documented everything. 2 days later, her captain, Robert Chen, called her into his office. There was pressure, calls from Westbrook. Powerful people wanted the ticket gone. Captain Chen refused. He told Maria to take the case to court. He promised to stand behind her. That is how how the case came to me. At 9:45 a.m. on October 17th, Richard Vandermeer entered my courtroom. He wore an expensive suit, polished shoes, and a watch that probably cost more than many families earn in a year. He walked with entitlement, not respect. His lawyer stood beside him, smooth, confident, practiced. Officer Maria Santos sat quietly in the gallery, dressed in full uniform, her military medals pinned to her chest. She sat straight, composed, but exhaustion radiated from her. I called the case. Officer Santos testified first. She explained everything calmly, clearly, and professionally. The radar reading, the delayed stop, the threats, the destroyed citation. Her voice cracked once, but she steadied herself and continued. Her evidence was flawless. Dashcam footage, calibration records, documentation. She told the truth. I knew it. Then Vandermeer spoke. He dismissed his lawyer and addressed me directly. He blamed the radar. He mocked Maria's personal problems. He smirked while doing it. When I asked whether he threatened her, he didn't deny it. He justified it. We played the dashcam footage. The room fell silent. His threats, his laughter, the tearing of the ticket. Still, Vandermeer looked bored. Then he said it. People at my level don't answer to people at your level. At that moment, my clerk handed me a note. Urgent. The FBI had been investigating Vandermeer for 8 months. Corruption, evidence tampering, abuse of power. They were on their way. Panic replaced arrogance. Vandermeer erupted. He tried to leave. He threatened everyone in the room. My bailiff blocked the door. That's when Vandermeer pulled a Glock 19 from his jacket and aimed it at me. Time slowed. I didn't move. I looked him in the eyes and said one word. Don't. Seconds passed like hours. Then the gun fell. He was on the floor in handcuffs within moments. Later, the FBI took him away. Charges stacked instantly. After recess, I returned and delivered my ruling, guilty on every count. Later, Vandermeer was convicted federally and sentenced to 18 years. His badge, pension, and power all gone. Maria Santos was promoted. Her community helped her family. Her daughter entered remission. And that is why I still believe in this system. Justice is not automatic. Justice happens when people choose courage. That day, a man with power fell, and a tired mother stood tall. That is what justice looks like. After the courtroom was cleared and the federal agents disappeared down the hallway with Richard Vandermeer in handcuffs, silence settled over the building in a way I had never experienced before. It wasn't the ordinary quiet of paperwork and waiting defendants. This silence was heavy. It carried shock, fear, relief, and something else, realization. For the first time in my career, I understood how thin the line truly is between order and chaos. I returned to my chambers and closed the door. Only then did my body react. My legs felt weak. My hands trembled uncontrollably. 43 years of discipline had kept me steady in public. But adrenaline does not ask permission when it leaves your system. It drains you all at once. I sat down and stared at the wall for several minutes, replaying those seconds in my mind. The gun, the shaking hand, the look in his eyes, not confidence anymore, not power, but panic. A man who had lived his entire life believing rules were for other people suddenly realized they applied to him too. Officer Marcus Thompson, my bailiff, knocked softly and stepped inside. He asked if I was all right. I told him I was. It wasn't entirely true, but judges learn early that words matter. What I meant was this. I was alive, and the system had held. Then, Officer Maria Santos stood at my doorway. She didn't look like a police officer in that moment. She looked like a mother who had almost watched the world collapse because she did the right thing. When I invited her in, she broke down completely. She kept apologizing for causing trouble, for putting people in danger, for being too stubborn. I stopped her immediately. I told her something I wish every honest officer could hear at least once in their career. This happened because a powerful man chose corruption and violence, not because you chose the law. She cried harder after that, not from fear, but from release. That afternoon, news spread faster than any gavel strike ever could. Cameras crowded the courthouse steps. Commentators argued. Some praised the system. Others questioned how a man like Vandermeer had stayed in power for so long. That question haunted me too. Over the next weeks, the truth unfolded. The FBI investigation revealed what many had suspected, but few dared to challenge. Vandermeer had turned his badge into currency. Protection for businesses, special favors for the wealthy, intimidation for anyone who resisted, careers destroyed quietly, complaints buried efficiently. He had survived because people were afraid. Maria Santos changed that. She wasn't the strongest person in the room. She wasn't the most powerful. She was tired, worried, scared, and she stood anyway. That is how corruption ends. Not with speeches, but with refusal. 6 months later, I sat in the federal courtroom where Vandermeer was sentenced. He didn't look important anymore. No suit could restore what he lost. No connection could save him. When the judge read 18 years, there was no outburst, just emptiness. Power without accountability always ends the same way. Maria Santos was promoted to sergeant. Her colleagues saluted her not because she was brave with a weapon, but because she was brave with the truth. The community raised funds to help her family. And the news that mattered most came quietly, without cameras. Her daughter Emma went into remission. Life, fragile and stubborn, moved forward. As for me, people often ask if that day changed how I see justice. The answer is yes, but not in the way they expect. I did not lose faith in the system. I lost faith in the idea that the system works on its own. Justice is not a machine. It does not run automatically. It depends on people, ordinary people, choosing integrity when silence would be safer. It depends on officers like Maria Santos, supervisors like Captain Chen, bailiffs like Marcus Thompson, and yes, judges willing to say no to power. My father once told me that a courtroom should be the last place on earth where wealth, rank, and fear have no meaning. On October 17th, that belief was tested by a gun. And it held. That is why I still wear the robe, because somewhere tonight, someone tired, scared, and underestimated will face a moment where doing the right thing feels dangerous. And when they do, I want them to know this. Courage does not belong to the powerful. Justice does not belong to the untouchable. And one honest person can change everything. That day, a man who thought he was above the law walked in confident. Less than an hour later, he was carried out in handcuffs, and a mother walked out with her dignity intact. That is not just a story, that is proof. Justice happens when people choose courage. That day, a man with power fell, and a tired mother stood tall. That is what justice looks like.